Welcome back. We are here again in Florida, again with another top 8 match. This time we're featuring Ashton Cox and Adrian Sigler.
Yeah, and obviously I think a lot of people will be excited to watch Ashton play.
Definitely.
Ashton, known as a spicy hot memer nationwide. He's well known for bringing the weird and wonderful, and we did get to have a peep at his team yesterday, and it is absolutely fantastic. I've seen a little more about the team, and I've had a chat with him about it, and there's even more fun to be had. It just doesn't stop in one set.
Any spoilers for us, or are we just going to have to wait and see?
I don't think so. I think I'm just going to let this one play out, and we'll discuss it as it goes, because, you know, as we do see the game being played out all day, some of them just don't want to reveal everything in even a top 8 match, not just the first match of their best of 3, but in the top 8 match as well, so they can save it for the top 4 and maybe bring a trump card to the final with them.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up top 4. Something interesting to note about Ashton is that he's actually top 4'd Florida Regionals 3 years in a row. So whether or not this will continue that streak, we'll have to see. He's certainly only one win away from it. So
yeah, he always does well at this event for some reason, and he always brings an exciting team. So I think a lot of players, he's getting, he has a very big fan base. Players just love watching his weird and wonderful teams. Not to take anything away from Adrian Sigler. I mean, he's still made top 8 at this regional, which had a very, very busy and tough to beat crowd in it. So
yeah,
I think his team probably has an answer to some of this stuff, and if he can just traverse through a best 2 out of 3. With Ashton, then he makes the Elite Four. Not really overdone. It's his breakout event, though. First big event. So, yeah, we asked him, what had he done before? And he said, this is the big one.
All right. Well, with that being said, I think we should get these trainers started. Again, for those of you who maybe didn't catch Ashton's match yesterday, I'll just go over his team now while they're getting into team preview. It's Kangaskhan, Groudon, Kyogre, Gardevoir, Crobat, and Gyarados. And you think you know what these Pokemon will do, but I will tell you, they do not do anything that I think we've seen these Pokemon do in the past.
No, you have
not at all.
We saw a Kangaskhan that did not Mega Evolve at any point, and obviously we did the damage calculation, so it's wearing a very snazzy little assault vest there. It's not what you're expecting at all. We saw Megas come out of both the Gardevoir and the Gyarados, so a really fun time. And I'm just wondering if Adrian 6, which I believe you're going to read out for me now, has the answer to it.
We'll have to see. Adrian is running Groudon, Smeargle, Cresselia, Bronzong, Salamence, and Xerneas. So in contrast to Ashton, I think that's a very standard team.
Yeah, very, very standard. The one thing we do see on it that we've not seen as much of this weekend actually is Smeargle. I don't know if players have just decided not to bring Smeargle with them, or they just didn't do very well with it. They didn't end up in these top tables that we've been trying to cast over the course of the weekend. So it's been tough for Smeargle players, but there's always a way out. There's only so much that Ashton's spicy hot memes can do against a Smeargle like this.
Yeah, it all comes down to, I think, a little bit of luck with Smeargle, though we have seen trainers in the past sort of, use the expectation that someone running Smeargle will be relying solely on luck, and then run a lot of really, nice strategy with it. So I'm really curious to see how Adrian's going to play it, and going into this match, we'll see if he even decides to bring it, and he does. There it is, right off the bat, Smeargle and Bronzong versus Ashton's Crobat and Gardevoir.
Yeah, very smart lead, I think, by Adrian. Not trying to give away too much, not trying to put those restricted Pokemon in danger. And we do see, I think, a more aggressive lead come out of Ashton. Gardevoir, though, not completely safe here. Obviously, Bronzong with the Gyro Ball, if that's what it's using as its attacking move, is going to be able to do some really big damage to it, especially if it Mega Evolves, I think. But the Crobat is a very solid answer to Smeargle. We saw earlier in the year a lot of people bring Crobat with the taunt, very fast. Couldn't be faked out by a Smeargle's partner if it was maybe a Kangaskhan or Smeargle itself. They can get the taunt down, figure out what item it's got as well, and that's going to be really key information. I think what the Smeargle's able to do in this game is going to decide which way the game goes. If Ashton can shut it down, he gets a nice win. If it's left to run rampant, then of course Adrian could take this game 1.
Yeah, we're going to see Gardevoir Mega Evolve here. So this is the Mega that Ashton's decided to bring to game 1. And Smeargle, interestingly enough, goes for a Crafty Shield. So it looks like it might be afraid of Crobat's taunt, but Crobat's not even going for it. It's going for a Super Fang. It connects, and the combo of what I believe is a Psychic and a Super Fang gets the knockout on Smeargle. So no memes from Smeargle for this game, I'm afraid.
Yeah, we see Adrian throw out the Crafty Shield, and he kind of gets punished for it. I think it's a very good read by Ashton to not go for the taunt. We see a lot of players try and taunt. He knows that that's something Smeargle can do, and he just goes to knock out that unknown quantity, get rid of it before it even has a chance to throw out a Moody Boost. But the downside to that is He leaves Bronzong free on the field to just Trick Room. So Adrian actually gets something that he really wanted there, which is control of the speed on the board.
He gets control of the speed on the board, and he also might be able to give Groudon a significant advantage here. One of Groudon's signature moves, Precipice Blades, is very inaccurate at times, and if Bronzong is holding something like Gravity, it might be the best time for it to set that up, help Groudon ensure that its attacks will connect with both Gardevoir and Crobat, actually, because Gravity forces flying Pokemon to land. And then it could even take advantage of that itself with something like Hypnosis, or maybe we'll just see it start dealing damage with Gyro Ball or some other attack to that Gardevoir slot.
Yeah, I like that's a very good potential play, and I actually almost like that Smeargle got knocked out there. Smeargle just kind of ran distraction on the side, put up Crafty Shield, so there was no taunt going into the Bronzong, and we do see Bronzong immediately go for Gravity.
We do see it immediately go for Gravity, and what's going to be interesting here is, okay, yep, there it is. Groudon following up with that Precipice Blades combo. It's going to deal a massive amount of damage to Crobat, gets that knockout, does a massive amount of damage to that Gardevoir as well. Gardevoir, though, using Trick Room to re-revert speeds and ensuring that it is, again, the fastest thing on the field right now.
Yeah, very interesting to see Gardevoir's carry Trick Room, especially now. We saw it a little bit before that some of them do, but that actually swings the momentum back in Ashton's favor. I thought the momentum was moving with Adrian. He got the Trick Room up and immediately had a Pokemon come in to really capitalize on it. If you can get the Groudon in under Trick Room to immediately start putting pressure on, you do really well. But he only managed to get one turn of that essentially before the Trick Room got reversed. He does get a knockout on the Crobat, so not all hope is lost. But now he's probably going to have to waste some turns trying to get that Groudon safe, probably pull it out, and I feel with the Trick Room reverted, Ashton's in a really good position to punish that kind of play.
Yeah, the big question I think for Adrian is, do you attempt to reset up Trick Room, or do you just abandon that strategy and try and do something else to start dealing more damage? It's certainly an interesting mind game to see here, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ashton just decides to be completely offensive and just start dealing damage to hopefully punish Adrian while he tries to figure out, well, what do I do now?
Yeah, we see a lot of Bronzong as well don't carry Protect. So I think Ashton could be playing quite smart. He knows that Groudon's not completely safe on the board right now. So we do see the Groudon Protect, and we are just going to see Ashton go on the offensive now.
Yeah, a massively powerful Water Spout, bringing Bronzong down to just 3 HP. I'm not really sure. It looks like Gardevoir went for a Psychic into that Bronzong, picks up the knockout before it is able to reset up Trick Room. And now Ashton both controls this speed on the board, and it's ready to just start dealing massive amounts of damage. Xerneas coming in for that Bronzong in its place.
Yeah, Xerneas actually coming in and helping Gardevoir. We do see now that the Groudon, because it protected rather than switch, is trapped on the field, so it's pretty much kind of lost. We can assume with Adrian's team what he's done is he's got a slower Groudon spread there to abuse the Trick Room that he might be able to set up. So Kyogre's probably in a really good position to beat that Groudon. And Gardevoir now, is if it's carrying a Fairy type attack, which a lot of them do, a lot of them look for something a little bit different. Just, it gives you an option to abuse Fairy Aura. It's going to be doing a large amount of damage too, so Xerneas has a real uphill struggle here, because I feel it's kind of on its own on the field trying to win this game for Adrian.
Yeah, so I got to commend it to Ashton, with the combination of these powerful Water Spouts, leaving Xerneas as just a mere 29 HP, knocking out that Groudon. He's really been able to take a game that looked like it might have not been as much in his favor, with that Trick Room off the bat, with that Crafty Shield sort of allowing Bronzong to get Trick Room up no matter what. He's turned this game around and made Adrian say, no, you're playing by my rules now.
Yeah, I think very good shifts in momentum. Obviously, we saw Adrian early on using the momentum in its favor, but we do see Ashton just play this game very smart throughout. So he's managed to control his restricteds. We have already seen as well that Kyogre is moving exceptionally early in the turn. It moved before the Xerneas last time, so really good information. I think even though it looks like Adrian's probably going to end up losing this first game, there's a lot of interesting things he can learn about the team on Ashton's side of the field. He knows a little bit about the statistics that are on Ashton's Pokemon, and he knows the kind of things his team can do. So a lot of information to be gathered, but I really like the play from Ashton there.
Yeah, I think the big question for me right now is going into this game too, will we see Smeargle maybe take on a different kind of strategy, try to rely on that Dark Void that we know most trainers kind of carry with it. Being in game two of top 8 and knowing what's on the line, if Adrian starts to panic a little bit, he might just look to that Dark Void as a saving grace to allow him to power through to a game 3.
Yeah, there's usually a way to get through a game if you can hit your Dark Voids. Depending on the item, Smeargle could be safe to get at least 2 Dark Voids out. We do see the item comes up for a lot of discussion, but I'm really curious to see what Adrian does. Obviously, he did get the Trick Room up, so he kind of got a little bit of his own way here, but he didn't really get to capitalize off it. We saw that Ashton had the way to switch it back around, so he only got 1 turn really with the Trick Room in his favor, and he didn't get enough out of that turn to really warrant maybe doing it in game 2. So I'm wondering if his team has a second option. Usually these teams do. They don't just play one way. You can't make it this far in a tournament by playing one way, but it's what does Adrian switch to, and does Ashton have the answer to it in this game as well?
Yeah, and being able to play your teams multiple ways certainly helps when you have this best of 3 format. It allows you to adapt a little bit more, maybe feel out your opponent in game 1 and then adjust. And being able to adjust well, I think, is what separates, the top 8 from the people who just barely make it in Swiss.
Yeah, I do like as well what these players can do with each other as well. They can kind of, I don't know if they played in Swiss, but they can definitely scout out the play style. And I always wonder if that affects how people play. We saw in game 1, Ashton, with the exception of Trick Room, I think was attacking every single turn, just taking knockouts and putting the pressure on. We saw Adrian a little more reserved. He did have the Bronzong, which is well known as a setup Pokemon. So it'd be interesting to see how these styles match up again. Does Ashton just go for that all-out offense to power him through to the Elite Four? Or does Adrian manage to pull it back and go take us to a game 3 by taking that kind of reserved style again?
Well, certainly their leads will tell us what they're thinking. Ashton going with the same Crobat and Gardevoir lead as he did in game 1. And Adrian as well, again using that Bronzong and Smeargle as his lead.
Yeah, we've seen both players. They get that decision between game 1 and 2. Do they want to stick? Do they want to twist? Both players deciding to stick, though.
Yeah, and we saw something very interesting there. Gardevoir's trace ability actually traced the heat-proof ability from that Bronzong. So that's certainly really great information for Ashton going into the rest of this game.
Yeah, we don't actually see him really benefit from what he traces. He just gets a free piece of information just for bringing Gardevoir, so something good for him to note. And we do see, of course, Ashton has the Groudon, now knows what to attack it with. Don't go for the Fire Punch, go for the Precipice Blades.
Yeah, and I don't know if Adrian will maybe change his play style to, adjust to the fact that, Ashton knows now that it is heat-proof. He can hit it with ground-type moves. But for now, I think Bronzong's pretty safe. That Gardevoir is not going to be knocking it out anytime soon. Maybe even if Crobat does have Taunt, Smeargle is free to set up Crafty Shield again here. So we're just going to have to see what these players are thinking going into turn 1. Gardevoir Mega Evolving, no Crafty Shield this time. We're going to see a Super Fang from that Crobat into the Bronzong. Hyper Voice knocking out Smeargle thanks to a critical hit. Leaving Bronzong on the field to set up Trick Room again, but wow, I don't think that crit was really what Adrian was hoping for from that turn.
Not at all, and it's pretty much, again, identical to game 1. We've seen this a few times. The only difference here is, of course, the way that the knockout on the Smeargle comes. Ashton getting very fortunate to land that critical hit. So he actually gets damage on the Bronzong along with that Trick Room getting set up. So a slightly better position for Ashton than game 1, actually. Been playing that game exactly the same, knows what he's doing against this team. And I feel Adrian's really on the back foot there. He's already shown that huge trump card he's got in being able to Gravity and Precipice Blades into the Crobat. So showing that now, I feel like obviously Ashton's going to know and play around that a little bit differently.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how Ashton can play around that, though, because both of his Pokemon are at a speed disadvantage right now. We know the Bronzong and the Groudon are going to move first. And, a lot of Crobat don't carry Protect. So we might see Ashton try and switch around a little bit here to compensate. But, that'll come at a cost of taking damage on those Pokemon that switch in.
Yeah, we did see as well in game 1 that Ashton knows his Gardevoir can actually survive through that Precipice Blades. It's not going to get knocked out by it, especially if it's spread damage. So I think he could be comfortable letting Adrian make the same move again.
We're going to see Gardevoir protect this turn. Bronzong going for a Gyro Ball into the Gardevoir, not going to do any damage. Groudon going for a Precipice Blades. Again, it's going to go into the protected Gardevoir, not going to do any damage, and that Crobat is free to get a free Super Fang out on that Groudon.
Yeah, Adrian trying to do something different, doesn't want to show that gravity play again, knows that obviously Ashton has knowledge of it, so goes for something entirely different, trying to knock out the Gardevoir by hitting it with Gyro Ball and the Precipice Blades. Doesn't get either of them. Very smart protect by Ashton, and he just gets to do 50% of Groudon's health with actually no retaliation from him.
We're going to see another Gyro Ball onto that Gardevoir from Bronzong. Does a massive amount of damage to it. Fire Punch, though, this time. Connecting with that Gardevoir, leaving Crobat again free to Super Fang something without taking any damage. And this time we're going to see that Super Fang target the Groudon once again.
Yeah, the Super Fang being the only form of damage, though, really limits what Ashton can do. I like Adrian's play here to just attack without trying to set up the gravity and force his way through the game that way. But unfortunately, with Super Fang just the only way for Crobat to attack, he's suffering from the law of diminishing returns. He's actually going to take a very long time to get the knockout that way. So he's going to need this Groudon that he's brought in to really start doing the damage. And I'll be interested to see if Ashton has the kind of Groudon that is favorable under Trick Room, or he's gone for one that just does a lot more damage. And I think with his playstyle, doing that larger amount of damage could be big.
Yeah, so we have to remember Trick Room is slowly ticking down, and if Ashton brought that Kyogre again in the back, once Trick Room is over, it'll be very easy for that Kyogre to come in and then start using Water Spout again just to deal knockouts. So maybe Crobat doesn't need to get the knockouts here. Maybe all it needs to do is just deal that chip damage so Kyogre can come in and clean up.
Yeah, there's definitely a way to look at it, and we saw in Game 1 he reversed the Trick Room. He didn't get to do that in Game 2. Adrian knew how to knock it out rather than let it get through to doing that Trick Room. So I like the way that Ashton's playing it a little bit differently. He's just responding to what Adrian's done. He's going to try and burn through the Trick Room, just getting through the turns himself.
Yes, we see Xerneas switch in for a Groudon and a Hypnosis outside of gravity into the Groudon. It connects, putting it straight to sleep, so Groudon will be unable to attack this turn. It might also be unable to attack the next couple of turns. We'll have to see if Ashton's feeling lucky today. He does get another Super Fang, though, connecting with that Xerneas.
Yeah, we see Ashton just trying to set up for when Trick Room is over. We do see the Bronzong get a little bit fortunate. We don't see many players banking on hitting Hypnosis out of gravity, but putting the offensive pressure of that Groudon asleep is fantastic for Adrian. We don't see a lot of people try that kind of play, but it pays off for him, and I think that may be to push him through. So when Trick Room ends, he's not in such a bad position, especially if he can get rid of this Groudon before it wakes up.
Yes, it's certainly the kind of play you only make when your back's against the wall, but when it works out, it can certainly just completely turn the game around.
Yeah, those are the kind of plays as well that win you games and win you tournaments. So a very smart play by Adrian, and now he's going to try and focus down this Crobat.
Yes, we see a Gyro Ball connecting with that Crobat, followed up by Xerneas using this opportunity with, not a lot of damage potential on the field to set up his own damage potential, getting that Geomancy, getting that +2 attack, +2 defense, special defense, and special attack, and +2 speed, ready to go. And I don't know if Trick Room's going to expire this turn, but if it does, it will certainly be a great opportunity for Xerneas going into the next turn. Ashton responding to that using his Crobat, not to Super Fang, but to Tailwind.
Yeah, this was the last turn of Trick Room, so very smart play from both players to set up something to then switch their teams from this slow mode that responds to Trick Room to a very fast mode. It goes over, obviously Ashton gets the Tailwind, so everything's going a little bit quicker on his side of the field, and Adrian putting all his eggs in the Xerneas basket, boosting it with the Geomancy, hopefully going to be able to push through Ashton's team just on that kind of offensive power alone. Because Bronzong may not be able to set up Trick Room, probably doesn't want to set up Trick Room if the Geomancy boost is in play. So I love that both players knew that that was going to end, and then they then set themselves up to push on. I think we're now very, very even, with a slight edge, I'm going to say, in Adrian's favor because that Groudon is asleep.
Yes, because that Groudon is asleep and because that Xerneas is powered up, I think Adrian certainly has everything working for him right now. But Crobat, not wanting to take any of that, uses Haze to eliminate Xerneas's stat boost. This Moonblast that it's now dealing to that Groudon will deal no damage at all. It does get a special attack drop, though, which could matter. We'll have to see. Groudon decides to stay asleep for one more turn, and Bronzong using this opportunity to use a Gyro Ball to deal a massive amount of damage to that Crobat and pick up that knockout.
Yeah, the Haze play coming in clutch again. We've seen a number of Crobat this weekend bring Haze, and I actually love seeing it. It's something that I don't know if Adrian was aware of on Ashton's team. You know, he could have done some research, but it's very potent. And when you do set up and get all of your setup removed, it puts you so far back in the way the game's played. So very, very good turn there from Ashton. Although he does lose the Crobat, Crobat's done its job. It's set up the Tailwind, and it's removed the stat changes from the Geomancy. So it's going to be hard, especially now, for this Xerneas to push through, because Ashton can just benefit from the Tailwind. And as we were saying earlier, he set himself up for victory a number of turns ago. Getting those Super Fangs down puts pretty much everything in range to get knocked out by these really big water spouts. So he can just cash in on that right now. As long as he doesn't take much damage, it should be a good way for Ashton to seal up the game.
Yeah, we do have to remember, though, that Adrian does have his Groudon in the back, so if he's really afraid of that water spout, he could switch it in now to try and negate Kyogre's damage potential. But, you know, Groudon's already been asleep for a couple of turns. We could see it wake up next turn. I believe it's guaranteed to wake up the turn after that. So really, if I'm in Adrian's shoes, I think I would first try and neutralize that Groudon, and then, once Sun is up, deal with that Kyogre. We're not going to see that, though. Kyogre going for a water spout, getting that double knockout right off the bat. Groudon has a free attempt here to try and wake up. So I think Ashton is looking very good going into what could be the last turn of this match. And Groudon does wake up.
Yeah, we are, of course, going to see the Groudon coming from Adrian. But I feel like now that Ashton's Groudon's awake, it's a really inconvenient time. You know, he wanted to bring in the Groudon and just be able to beat out the other Groudon on Ashton's side of the field. But the other thing as well, we do see the Groudon that was on Adrian's side of the field was significantly weakened. So it may be in range to get knocked out by an Ice Beam coming out of that Kyogre. And it's probably going to take a while with it at full health to really chew through the thick fat of this big blue whale.
Yeah, we're going to see Groudon protect this turn, possibly stalling out what I believe is the last turn of Tailwind, protecting through an Ice Beam from Kyogre and a Fire Punch from that Groudon.
Yeah, Ashton not really showing anything exciting there, nothing too amusing. We do see the Kyogre, though, just go for the move first and throw out the Ice Beam for the knockout and a quick 2-0 for Ashton. He's going to be moving on to the Elite Four.
He is, and I gotta say that Kyogre is very fearless. It certainly does a lot of damage for Ashton, and I can't wait to see how it does, you know, continuing into the top four. I think you're right. I think we still have a lot of secrets from Ashton that are yet to be discovered.
Yeah, there's definitely some things we didn't see there. We didn't see that odd Kangaskhan at all in that set. We didn't see much of the Gyarados either. We did not. We did see it on stream yesterday, but something that he's maybe saving for his top four match, maybe a more favourable matchup there. Really well played set by Adrian. I think he knew what he needed to do, and he made the right plays, but I feel Ashton was just a step ahead. He had the answer as well, you know. He did let Geomancy go up because he had the answer in Haze. He did let Trick Room go up because he had the answer in reversing the Trick Room. Very smart play from Ashton, just showing why he makes top four at this regional every single year.
I was just about to say, you know, the streak lives on. Ashton Cox moving on to the Elite Four for the fourth year now in a row, and I think we're all very excited to see him, you know, play, I believe, the winner of our next game, maybe?
Yes, he'll be playing the winner of our next round, so it'll be interesting to see him. We are going to have an interview coming up with Ashton now, though. You'll be talking to him and just getting a little bit of insight in his team. I'm sure he won't give away too much.
Yeah.
But you can try. I leave this up to you.
I'm going to try really hard. I want spoilers, man. I'm pretty sure, you know, you guys out there feel the same way. So we'll be right back with that interview. Thank you guys so much for watching. Welcome back, everybody. I'm here with the king of spicy memes himself, Ashton Cox. I gotta say, you're running probably one of the most unique 2016 teams I've ever seen. It's been an absolute pleasure to watch.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it is definitely. It looks it looks kind of standard on paper with the Kangaskhan and the two primals and a Crobat, but the more you look at it and the more you see it in battle, it kind of takes it out of context a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm sure, as much as I would love some spoilers about this team going into top 4, I think it's safe to say we're going to save that for later. But tell me a little bit about your team building process. Like, how do you come up with such unique combinations that yet work so well?
Well, actually, when I was building this team, I saw I had this weird idea that Kangaskhan and Volcarona with two primals would work, and I was like, okay, that works. And in testing, I didn't like the Kangaskhan or the Volcarona, so I was like, okay, well, I guess I like dual primals. And then for some reason, I thought Gardevoir. I really don't know why, but Gardevoir I thought was good, so I put it on the team. And Crobat was a good way to get rid of Geomancies and Smeargles and things like that, so Crobat was there. And this Kangaskhan, from what you've seen, I don't know why that's there. I put that on the night before, but, it works.
It worked out. So, sometimes those last-minute changes just are what makes the team, just that much better.
Yeah.
So, about your last match in particular, did you practice it all last night going into it? Did you study your matchup?
Yeah, looking at my matchup, I knew one of my most important things was to not let my opponent get Trick Room up, because when I did, obviously, if that Precipice Blades, that almost KOs everything on my team. So definitely in game 1, reversing the Trick Room and then proceeding with Kyogre was definitely one of my only options in that situation. But I'm glad to say that even in game 2, when I was forced to play in Trick Room, that it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that Dawes mentioned while we were watching your last match is that it seemed like you were always 2 or 3 turns ahead of Adrian. How do you manage, thinking about that, thinking about the damage calc, just thinking about how your team works? It seems like there must be a lot going on in your brain.
Yeah, well, most of it is counting Trick Room turns. That's a big one. Is you got to know, I got 3 more turns, so I could waste 2 of those protecting, stall it out, maybe get some other things in. Or if you look at it as a sort of, maybe I can destroy their Pokemon before Trick Room ends if I want to use Trick Room as a sort of way to get through it. But it's really managing your turns, when you have speed control, when you don't have speed control, or when you have your weather, definitely, when they can switch stuff in like that. Especially that last turn of game 2 when I just went for the Water Spout. I was really hoping he didn't switch in Groudon. But I did also Fire Punch the Bronzong, just in case. So
Nice. Nice. Well, this is your 4th year in a row getting top 4 here. I think you are truly the elite of the elite 4th, given your accomplishments. How does this year compare to past years?
I'm not really sure. In past years, I've liked my team, but then looking back on it, I've been like, oh, well, I was obviously weak to that, and then that's what I lost to in top 4. Hopefully this year I can look back at it and be like, yeah, I had a really good matchup in top 4. Maybe I'll keep going. So hopefully that's where it goes.
Hopefully. We'll be all rooting for you, Ashton. Best of luck.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so we'll be right back in a couple minutes with the next top 8 match, so please stay tuned.